Hi everyone, it's Diana. I'm out of bed, but this is on my bed, so it's recording me next to the bed. My house is cluttered, but it's not a hoarding thing. I'm listening to music that I love to hear because you don't hear that much more. But my grandson, who's 14, is finding things that he really likes to hear. And Alexa, can we play some soft rock? The station, Mellow Gold Radio, on Amazon Music. I love Alexa because I get to talk to her and she tells me jokes if I want to hear jokes. And she'll tell me the weather, the traffic, everything, anything I ask her to do. And she keeps me company. I got two of them. I just recently purchased another one from Finch, Fetch, just Fetch online. You just scan your receipts. I've been doing it for a while, so I got like $35 worth of cash card for Amazon, and I was able to get another. I got a Alexa Pod, which is really cool. I got the disc, but this one's the dot. I think that's what it's called, the dot. So this one I had to get used to. I bought it in blue. I thought it was kind of cool. It's different having from the different norm, and everything like that. But yeah, that Alexa keeps me company, and she reminds me every day of when to take my pills. And I do have it where she gives me the notification, and she'll keep repeating it on the hour until I get it done. And so it really helps me to remember to take them. And I've got an organizer, and I just spilled a bunch of it on the floor. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, I'm sorry. Got my phone on it. I'm sitting on a stool. It's killing my knees to be against the frame of the bed. But yeah, I had all these books over here, and I cleared off all this. This has got hampers, and I'm planning to clean that out and donate the stuff to my grandson. His troop donates it. So, and he's like a arrow thing, which is like an Eagle Scout, and he's a team leader over there. And his sister just moved up into that, so she's a scout too. But they've been in it since they were about 5 years old, and they went through the whole shamil with the same, troop and everything, which is, getting to see that happen is really neat. I was in the Campfire Girls. It sucked. Yeah, I didn't enjoy it. But then let's see, and then my daughter, she was in the Girl Scouts, and she was a brownie, and then went over the bridge and became a Girl Scout. I couldn't become that, but I was helping her out because I was working flexible hours at the casino at the time, I think, and or at the Arby's restaurant because you're a floater basically. I was basically at quality control. They sent me to all different stores to make sure that they were back in, get them back in shape, and saying that you got to get this done and you got to get that done. And that was really cool. I worked for Arby's, but then, it depends on the management that you're under, just like anywhere else, you know. I'm so positive it really kills people because you know what they do? I had worked at Lady Foot Locker, and there was a girl named Stacy or Tracy, I think one of the two. Because I always run across these Tracys and Stacys that in my management that I never really took a liking to because they're arrogant. The ones that I met, not everybody's like that. I'm not saying that, but the few that I met that was working with were arrogant, and I would work in the back trying to unload boxes. Inventory came in and you want to load them and put them in the shelves and everything like that. And sometimes you have to move the shelf stuff because new stock came in, but they were different types, so they got to get squeezed in somewhere, so you got to move all the shoes. That girl manager, I was assistant, she would go up on the ladder and drop those shoe boxes right on top of my head. I believe the second time I was dizzy, I was seeing stars, but yeah, she must have got her kicks off of that, they are all that, the ones that I've met that way. I've had bullies, in my working jobs. The worst was Jared's. I worked for Family Fine Jewelry at Macy's. And when I worked there, they were going out of business because Macy's took over Macy's, and then Macy's took over Macy's. And so the biggest franchise took over this last one, and they were kicking us lease line out of there because they have their own fine jewelry. Well, the district, she was my manager, and then she became district manager. Well, she got recruited for Jared's, and she brought her as a manager and assistant manager, and she brought her over and recruited me to go over there. But the thing is, they recruited all the seniors as citizens at the time, and we all had our customers. We brought our customers in. But yeah, they were doing me. I knew they were going to push me out the door when we went to Akron, Ohio, to bring the inventory into a new store because I got hired to help open a new store, that 135th and out there in Overland Park somewhere. And she had that manager bragged about her master's degree in psychology, and she started replacing people. And when we went out to Akron, Ohio, and she didn't know it, but I knew that girl that she hired also that went down there with us. And they were favoring her left and right, and they just kept me off to the side because I was one of the eldest ones that they had that was still there. But when we did our inventory and everything like that, and we checked to make sure there wasn't chick diamonds coming into our store. But yeah, they kind of left me alone quite a bit over there while they partied. And they, of course, shared rooms. I had a room all by myself. I didn't mind that at all. None of them wanted to share a room with me. I go, okay. I got to pick a bed, any bed I want, and everything. It's just that I was the elder of the bunch, basically. A few of them, and the younger, the ones that was some of my age, they were all partying, and I was. But dang, I can handle it. I couldn't handle that drinking and stuff. And then we came back home. We flew back home, and I knew that girl they took with us was going to take over my job someday. I really did. Because she worked at Penny's at the other end of the mall, and she worked in the position I'm working at, Jared's. And I knew she had more hands-on experience. But I seen how they were setting up. That manager was going after, would pressure these people to quit or fire them. And when it came to me, when it come to time, I've already tried to set up another job. I started a job with my husband because it was in the 2008 or so. And that's when people were losing their positions everywhere. And so he lost his, but we had banked enough where we started a welding store there in Shawnee. It was a little bitty place right next to the Masonic Lodge. and it was really cool. And so I, they were pressuring me. They were doing all sorts of things and intimidating me. She was mentally intimidating me. And I think her name was Stacy. And what she'd do is she'd take all the new employees, and they were so young and they were afraid of her. They were afraid of her because they needed that job. Everybody was needing a job, but these were young folks that you can control. That's the way I'm looking at it. And she gets to the point where if she thought she can say something to me and do it in front of a crowd is what she likes doing. And I wouldn't please her. I just looked straight back at her and until she was done. And she goes, "Are you there?" I go, "Yeah, I'm fine." But you know what? I didn't allow her to intimidate me, and she did it in several ways too. And besides that, she would go to the other side of the store with all the employees, and I had to stay where I was positioned on the other side. But of course, it was in front of them. Her back was to me, but her face was to them, and she was talking to them, and you could tell by them looking at me that she was talking about me. And she took a pencil and she just jabbed it like she was stabbing herself in the neck. And I go, "What the hell's wrong with that girl?" I go, karma's going to get her. And that karma is, what goes around comes around. And she's going to, and it got to the point where I said, "I've got to go. I've got a new job." And she wouldn't say that Tracy woman or Tracy or Stacy, she wouldn't even say anything to me that day I was leaving. She walked right out the door, and as she stood at the door, I was on the other side of the glass, and she was going into her car looking back at the store, and I just waved at her. I'm old. I've gone through major mind games with, not me, but have master game players in my family. And it's like, I learned, don't mess with them, don't let them go at you. My daughter, at one time, they were going through puberty years, my son and my daughter. But boy, she'd go after my son and be right in his face. And this is a 6'2" boy, and she's right there 5'9", 5'8", in his face. And she'd be in his face just yelling and yelling and yelling. And I took him to a side and I said, "Son, now, you can't be arguing with her. I can't deal with this. I come home from work. I have to watch I'm working opposite. So I'm working nights and I'm hearing this during the days along with the neighbors yelling and everything else. And the walls were thin. They're in Overland Park. And what they did was she would get in his face and he goes, so I pulled him aside and I said, "Son, you can't do that." And it's really, I can't deal with it. And he goes, "But Mom, she's yelling at me. She's right, just always yelling at me in my face and everything. What can I do?" And I says, "This is what you do." Because I learned from dealing with my co-workers. I go, "You just look straight into her face and just look into her eyes and let her finish what she's going to say. And when she gets done, because she's going to get tired, when she gets done, you look at her and you say, 'I love you, sis.' Give her a wink and a kiss." I go, "That's going to tear her up more than anything because, see, he's over positive like me and he has his things going on. And she was the aggressor and I dealt with aggressors all my life. And so he came back to me and told me, he says, "Mom, it worked." He loved it. He goes, "Mom, it just worked. I was so happy." And And I go, see, you didn't have to yell and you didn't have to scream and hit. Or, no, they didn't hit. But boy, she would put him in wrestling holds to prove those holds weren't fake. That girl. They're in their 40s now, and my oldest one's in his 50s. These are my grandchildren. This is my oldest one. He's 28. And he works over here in Edwardsville, I believe. And then Jason's in the Marines. He went in the Marines right after he got out of high school at Bishop Carroll. And he was, so within weeks, he was in the Marines boot camp. But he's been there several years now. And down here, Athena is the youngest of my grandchildren. Oh, I got to raise you. There we go. That Athena is the youngest of my grandchildren. And that's her older brother. She went into kindergarten that fall. That May before. He graduated and went into the Marines. And then that fall, she went into kindergarten. So Mom and Dad have to start all over again. And this is I had 3 older grandsons. So this one's 20, going on 27, 28. This one is 21, 22. This one is 14, going on 15. And he plays the piano, drums. He's been playing piano since he was 3. He's been taking music lessons since he was 3. He was composing melodies from the Star Wars and putting them all together in little pieces, and he composed it all together. Put it all together, and he played it at a talent show when he was 5, all by himself. He just picked it all up. I have a video on that too. But now he's 14, and oh my goodness, he can play all sorts of different instruments, and he's taking the music from the 1970s and he's trying to transform into like the drums, and he's getting interested in the heavy metal. I just go, really? I went to Kiss. I gone to Journey. I went to the Who. I went to the Stevie Miller band. And so I really did have fun with my grandkids. They're all going in different directions, and now their parents are running amok like I was running my kids amok. I worked full time. I took kids back and forth to their stuff that they needed to get done. I took care of my grandmother and my mother because my grandmother was only 20 years separate from my mother, and my mother's like 22 separate from me. So they were both seniors by the time I was 40. Mom was 60 and Grandma was 80. But I started taking care of them until they died. And Grandma was 94 years old and Mom was 85. And they both died in the same nursing home, and I told my kids, I don't want to die in a nursing home. I got this house. This is where I'm going to be. You can throw the bed away after I die. I go, but I'm not going anywhere. That's what I said. I'm not going in a high rise. I'm not going to fight with all those people trying to use that laundromat, or when the bread man comes in and all these people from other floors are trying to get down there and get that bread from down there and not listening that you're supposed to go floor by floor. They would all try to go down there. Bunch of foreigners. That's what they are. A lot of high rise, like in Overland Park. You get a lot of Russians in that one. It wasn't meant for that. It was meant for the senior citizens in Overland Park. But it's amazing how the immigrants took over that. So you're fighting with, basically, it's a fight because these Russians are really stubborn, and they will say, they won't bargain with you or barter with you. They will say, pay this, I want to pay this. And it's like, this is the price, and this is what I want for it. I had such a horrible time at garage sales with them. But Mom was in that high rise too in Overland Park, and she was the one also in Blue Jacket. And I would take them all, including one of their roommates, and we would all go to Barton and I think it's King, maybe. But I think it's Barton. My grandma lived on Barton and 57th Street in Shawnee. That was lot 1 and 2 in Shawnee. And the original house had cotton inside the walls. And they, of course, the house get cold because the cotton would settle inside the walls. It was basically a 2-room house, but then they added rooms to it, including the restroom and everything like that. Well, they had so many wells there on that corner lot. It was the lot 1 and 2 in Shawnee. The Contrails came through Shawnee, did not see it because it sat off into the wooded area. And so it was one of the few homes that wasn't touched by the Contrails at the time. Now, my grandma and my grandpa was the second owners. And back then, Shawnee and Neiman Road, when I was down there, I got a picture of myself in front of the house right there at Barton and 57th Street is the corner where they lived. And they had so many whales in that over there that my cousin actually fell into one of them that was about 6-7 foot deep and broke his arm. But there was one right next to the restroom between the houses of Miss Miller and my grandma. And Miss Miller would take her stuff and throw it into that well. You know, every time she get brush or something, she gets to throw it in that well. She was a mean old customer, Miss Miller. When I was a child, I mean, the school, Flint Elementary School, was directly across the street. Okay, the street was there, and it was like a T shape. Okay, Grandma was on the corner over here, so that T shape came right across the front of the 2 lots of our Grandma's house and her lot. And so, but you have to cross the street to walk along the playground to get to the school, you know. So she wouldn't let us, just a little corner of her property, wouldn't let us cut across that so we can get to the street corner. You know, we had to walk into the street just about 6 feet or less. It was about 3-4 feet, so that we can cross the street and get onto the corner of cross the street at the playground. She would get onto us. Oh my goodness. And she'd come over and visit Grandma when they're in their 80s. Okay, they're in their 80s. And I go to visit. And Grandma's had the radio on in the kitchen. And Miss Miller sitting at the little kitchen table. And I'm sitting opposite from her. And Grandma standing behind her, you know, at the kitchen sink and the radio and everything. That little Miss Miller says, that radio's too loud. Grandma went to turn it down. She went and looked at Miss Miller and went, talking about trying my best to hold a straight face on the other side of the table. When you're seeing an 80-year-old woman sticking a tongue out at another 80-year-old woman. It is the funniest shit. But yeah, they tore down that house, and they filled the cellar up with these bedrock, but they didn't lay it flat, so it's all different directions. So the soil they put on top keeps saturating between the bedrock and the cracks and crevices and everything. No one bought that lot that's over there. They bought the corner lot and they built a house on top of that. Right there on that corner lot, my husband and I got married in 1979, July of 1979. We went to get married, and I lost my marriage license. I know it had to be, well, it was us. Lost our marriage license. And the day of, And so we went over there to grandma's because we were getting married in our yard. And we said, Grandma, we can't get married. We don't have our marriage license. We can't find it anywhere. And everybody started rolling in, all dressed up, ready to watch us get married. We had our clothes and everything. And we didn't get married. I was heartbroken. And Grandma looked at me and says, they're leaving with your presents. And she went right out there and started grabbing those presents and from these people, and she says, we're still having a shower. See, I'm my grandma's eldest granddaughter. She had like 38 grandchildren, and my brother was the eldest, and I was second to the eldest. And so she was watching out for me, my grandma. I was 24 at the time, 23 or 24 at the time, and she was watching out for me. And I still have a couple of things. I got my dishes from my brother Martin. I got my pots and pans from my brother Donald, who's my late brother Donald. And I got a little sugar and creamer onyx, and beautiful. I got them from my aunt Reba, and she's my Uncle Sam's wife. And so I still have that, and I cherish that. There's a lot. We've done a lot of moving during those days. Since then, that I lost a lot of things during the time. We've had fires, thefts, and everything else, and moving. We just moved a lot. We try not to with our children, though. But, we went and put things in storage for things just got lost over time. But I'm not too worried now because I already gave my goodies to my kids so that if something happens to me, there's material stuff around here, like my Georgian lovebird depression glass dishes. And I got Fenton dishes, Fenton glass, where I've got J.R. Hamill prints that's double signed. And the very first print we ever collected was I would say 43 years ago. And when that print is one of 4 of the Plaza from J.R. Hamill. And so we got that that was our very first print. But we got like 6 or 7 of the prints, and I've collected quite a bit dishes. But they're things that I collected. I'm just having a hard time trying to sell. I know I'm morbid, but I've collected dead people photographs. They're not, they look like they're alive, those kind, where they got the thing holding their head up. But it doesn't mean that they're dead, though. They use those to keep people straight and still while they're getting pictures taken. But you can tell the ones that are dead the way they're standing or sitting or things like that. And I got them under my rosary and some salt because you never know what attachment is with it. And excuse me, I aspirate. But I got a whole picture album of that, and I like to sell that. It's just that I need the money. I don't know where to sell it. Anyway, I closed down my eBay account because I got tired of paying into it and not getting anything out of it. I don't know. Maybe rent a room, not a room, but having somebody professionally sell my stuff. But I don't crochet anymore. I got all the crocheting needles and I got this yarn. And I make jewelry. And I don't make jewelry anymore. I got arthritis. Look, I got arthritis. My thumbs.
This is a reminder. Diana, she has to take her pills. Just let me know if this is done. This is a reminder. Diana, she has to take her pills. Just let me know if this is done.
My arthritis. See, I can hold cups like this and something underneath it, but putting this thumb around something, I don't want to work. And then when I grab something, I grab it like this to pick it up, because people with arthritis, they can get the curled up fingers like that, but mine's more like straight fingers, you see. And that's where the trouble comes in, is the curl. And you can see that right in here how that arthritis is just kind of, and it'll help when you're this way, but I'm arthritic throughout my body. I'm used to it now. I've been going through it for nearly 20, let's see, since I was in my 40s, and I'm going on 70, for a long time. And I relate to all. I thank God. I'm going to end this soon. I thank the good Lord for giving me the experience of taking care of my mom and my grandma. It helped me quite a bit to prepare for myself. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. They instill they believe in me enough to take care of them for the rest of their lives, and I did. And believe me, at the nursing home, I was on them like white on rice. Oh yeah, they would see me coming down the hallway. They would stern up, you could say, oh shoot, here she comes. Oh yeah. Nobody's watching out for the seniors at the nursing homes except for the loved ones. And you really need to, that's what I did. And I took my grandchildren with me and let them see how I took care of my parents. And I got really caring grandchildren and children. And I don't yell and scream at them, and they don't yell and scream at each other or hit each other. None of that. And it's really a calming effect to have that kind of peace in the family. And that's how I raised my children, not to yell and scream. But anyways, I just wanted to thank you all for listening to me again. I'm only allowed so many minutes, and it takes guts for me to get online. It's a struggle for me, but I'm out of my box. I'm doing it outside my box here, but in my bedroom. Alrighty, okay. Y'all have and put a thumbs up if you like my avatar. I think it really looks a lot like me. But give me a thumbs up if you like my avatar that's on my channel. Alrighty, thanks for listening. Have a good night.